Let me ask you something. When everything was going wrong in your life, your phone was silent. But the day you started winning, suddenly everyone remembered your number. Interesting, isn't it? See, life teaches us a very strange lesson. People don't disappear when you fail, they disappear when you are no longer useful to them. And today, I'm not here to make you angry about that. I'm here to make you free from that pain. Because the truth is, no one is really your friend until you win. Not because people are bad, but because human attachment is often tied to convenience, status, and success. If you don't understand this early in life, you will keep expecting loyalty from people who are only watching your results. So today, let's talk honestly, not emotionally, but wisely. Let's talk about how to win without hatred, how to grow without bitterness, and how to protect your heart without becoming cold. When you are struggling, people rarely notice. Not because they are heartless, but because struggle has no shine. Effort is silent. Pain is quiet. Late nights, early mornings, self-doubt, fear, rejection. These things don't make noise. They don't trend. They don't attract attention. You may be giving your 100%, but to the world, it looks like nothing is happening. And that is one of the most painful realities a person has to accept early in life. We grow up believing that hard work automatically earns respect. We think if we are sincere, if we are honest, if we are trying our best, people will value us. But the world doesn't work on intention. It works on outcome. Results speak a language everyone understands. Struggle speaks a language only the person going through it can hear. That is why, when you are in the middle of building your life, you often feel invisible. Think about it honestly. When someone tells you, "I'm trying," your mind listens politely. But when someone tells you, "I've done it," your mind pays attention. Success creates curiosity. Effort creates sympathy at best, and sympathy doesn't bring respect. Respect comes when people see proof. Until then, your journey remains private. Many people feel hurt by this truth. They say, "Why does no one support me when I'm trying so hard?" The answer is simple, but not easy to digest. The world is not designed to reward struggle, it is designed to reward results. That doesn't make the world unfair, it makes it practical. Everyone is fighting their own battles, carrying their own pressure, and looking for signs of certainty. Success signals certainty. Struggle signals risk. Most people are drawn to safety. When you are struggling, even your closest people may doubt you. They may love you, but they don't know whether to believe in your dream or protect you from disappointment. So they stay quiet. Some step back. Some advise you to be realistic. What they are really saying is, "I don't see results yet, so I don't know if this is worth trusting." And that hurts. It hurts because you know how much effort you are putting in, but effort has no visible shape. This is why many people give up just before they succeed. Not because the work is too hard, but because the silence becomes too heavy. No appreciation, no encouragement, no recognition, just you and your doubts. And in that moment, you start questioning yourself. If no one believes in me, maybe I'm wrong. But remember this, lack of recognition does not mean lack of progress. It only means your progress has not become visible yet. Results are loud. They announce themselves without explanation. The moment you achieve something, people suddenly remember your sacrifices. The same people who ignored your effort will say, "I always knew you could do it." Not because they are lying, but because now your struggle makes sense to them. Success gives context to your pain. Before results, your struggle looks like confusion. After results, it looks like dedication. This is why it is dangerous to depend on external validation during your building phase. If your motivation depends on applause, you will quit when the room is silent. And the room is always silent before success. Always. The world only claps after the performance is over. During practice, there is no audience. Understanding this truth changes you. You stop expecting emotional support from people who are waiting for proof. You stop explaining yourself again and again. You stop feeling offended when no one notices your effort. Instead, you conserve your energy. You focus. You work quietly. You let your results speak when the time comes. There is also a deeper lesson here. When you finally succeed, you realize how easy it is to respect someone who has already made it. And then you become careful. You become humble. You remember how lonely the journey was. You remember how little encouragement you received. And if you are wise, you don't repeat the same behavior with others. You learn to respect effort even when results are not visible yet. But until that day comes, you must be strong enough to walk alone. You must learn to be your own witness. Your struggle does not need an audience to be valid. Your effort does not need approval to be meaningful. The seed grows in darkness before it breaks the surface. No one claps for a seed, they clap for the tree. But without that unseen phase, the tree would never exist. So don't let the world's silence make you bitter. Let it make you disciplined. Don't let the lack of recognition weaken you. Let it strengthen your self-belief. Results will come. And when they do, people will notice. Not because you suddenly became worthy, but because the world finally understands what you were doing all along. Most people imagine life as a celebration that happens all along the journey. They believe that if they are doing the right thing, someone will notice, encourage them, and cheer for them. But real life doesn't work that way. Life is more like a long race where the crowd only gathers near the finish line. During the run, when your legs are tired, your breath is heavy, and your mind is screaming to stop, there is no applause. There is only silence, sweat, and self-doubt. In the middle of the race, no one asks how much effort you are putting in. No one checks how many times you fell and stood up again. No one measures the pain in your muscles or the fear in your heart. All of that is invisible. What people see is the final moment, whether you crossed the line or not. And that is why claps come after the finish line, not during the struggle. This reality feels unfair when you are living it. You want encouragement when you are tired, not when you are already done. You want someone to say, "Keep going," when you are questioning yourself, not when success has already arrived. But the world is not emotionally involved in your journey. It is observational. People watch from a distance and wait for certainty. Until they see the outcome, they remain quiet. When you are running your race, you may even feel mocked instead of supported. Some people will question your direction. Some will advise you to stop and choose an easier path. Some will laugh at your ambition because it makes them uncomfortable. Your persistence reminds them of the chances they didn't take. So instead of clapping, they protect themselves with doubt and sarcasm. Not because they hate you, but because your effort forces them to look at their own inaction. This is why emotional maturity is required to succeed. You must be able to move forward without external motivation. If you expect cheers while you are struggling, you will lose focus. The need for validation becomes heavier than the work itself. And slowly, the work starts feeling pointless. This is the moment many people quit. Not at the hardest point physically, but at the loneliest point emotionally. The finish line represents certainty. Once you reach it, everything changes. The same people who questioned your choices suddenly praise your courage. The same silence turns into celebration. They say things like, "You were so disciplined," or "You never gave up," and you may feel confused. Where were these words when you needed them the most? But understand this: people clap when they feel safe to clap. Success gives them permission. There is also a psychological reason behind this behavior. People are drawn to completed stories. They like narratives with a clear ending. While the story is still unfolding, it feels uncomfortable. They don't know how it will end, so they stay detached. Once the ending is clear, they emotionally invest. Your success gives closure to your struggle, and only then does it become worthy of applause in their eyes. This is why the strongest motivation must come from within. You must learn to celebrate small wins in private. You must learn to acknowledge your own progress when no one else does. When you wake up on a difficult day and still show up, that is a victory, even if no one sees it. When you resist the urge to quit, that is progress, even if it goes unnoticed. If you wait for claps to keep moving, you will stop every time the room goes quiet. And the room is always quiet before success, always. Silence is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. Often, it is a sign that you are early. The crowd hasn't arrived yet because the finish line is still far. There is a hidden gift in this silence. It teaches you self-reliance. It builds inner strength. It forces you to clarify your reasons. When no one is watching, you discover who you really are. Are you doing this for attention? Or are you doing this because it matters to you? That question can only be answered in silence. When you finally cross the finish line, the applause will feel different. It will be louder, but it will also feel lighter. Because by then you won't need it. You will appreciate it, but you won't depend on it. You will know that the most important part of the journey happened when no one was clapping. The real victory was not the applause at the end, but the courage to keep running when there was none. As your life changes, something else quietly changes with it: how people treat you. Not all at once, not dramatically, but subtly, almost invisibly. One day you notice that your words carry more weight. Your opinions are listened to more carefully. Invitations come more easily. Advice is asked rather than ignored. And you start realizing that attachment, for many people, is deeply connected to where you stand in life. When you are struggling, people often see you through the lens of your limitations. They may like you, they may care about you, but they don't depend on you. They don't seek your presence in important moments. Your absence doesn't create urgency. Your voice doesn't change decisions. You are part of the background. And this is not because you lack value as a human being, but because society quietly ranks relevance through status. Status doesn't only mean money or fame. It can be confidence, stability, influence, or even emotional strength. When you lack these, people unconsciously feel there is little to gain by being closely connected. They keep you at a safe distance. Conversations remain shallow. Relationships feel conditional. You may sense warmth, but not investment. As soon as your situation improves, the temperature changes. People lean in. They ask questions. They want to know your thoughts. Suddenly, your time feels valuable to them. This shift can be confusing, especially if you are emotionally honest. You might wonder, did I change or did they? The uncomfortable truth is that often you changed externally, and that gave others permission to change internally. Many people struggle to accept this because we are taught that relationships should be unconditional. And at a moral level, that is true. But at a behavioral level, most human relationships are influenced by perceived value. This is not always intentional or malicious, it is a survival instinct. People attach themselves to what feels strong, stable, and promising. Weakness, uncertainty, and instability make them uncomfortable. This is why some friendships fade when you fall behind in life. It's not that people suddenly stop caring. It's that they don't know how to relate to you anymore. Your struggles remind them of their own fears. Your uncertainty disturbs their sense of order, so they pull away not with hatred, but with distance. When your status rises, the opposite happens. Your presence feels reassuring. Being associated with you feels safe, even beneficial. People don't always think in terms of advantage, but their behavior reflects it. They show up more. They listen longer. They stay connected. Attachment grows when your life appears stable and upward moving. Understanding this can be painful, but it can also be liberating. When you realize that attachment often changes with status, you stop personalizing distance. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start understanding, "This is how many people are wired." This awareness protects your self-worth. It also teaches you to be careful with your expectations. If you expect consistent emotional support from people who are still measuring your relevance, you will feel repeatedly disappointed. Instead, you learn to differentiate between love and convenience. Love remains steady. Convenience changes with circumstances. There is another important lesson here. When your status improves, not everyone who comes closer deserves a deeper place in your life. Attention is not loyalty. Interest is not commitment. Some people are attracted to your position, not your person. If you are not aware of this, success can surround you with many faces but very few hearts. This is why inner grounding is essential. If your sense of worth rises and falls with how others treat you, you become dependent on external approval. But if your worth is anchored internally, changing attachments don't shake you. You observe without bitterness. You accept without resentment. The most powerful response to this truth is not anger, but maturity. You continue to treat people with respect regardless of your status. You don't become arrogant when you rise or insecure when you fall. You understand that human behavior is often more about fear and comfort than about fairness. And perhaps the most important outcome of this understanding is compassion. Once you see how attachment changes with status, you become more mindful of how you treat others. You learn to stay present with people even when they are struggling. You learn to listen even when they have nothing impressive to offer. Because you remember how it felt to be overlooked. Not everyone will do this. But if you do, you become rare. You become someone whose presence is not based on position, but on character. And in a world where attachment changes with status, character becomes the only stable currency. When people pull away, doubt you, or seem uninterested in your journey, the first reaction is almost always personal. You feel rejected, you feel ignored, you feel like you did something wrong. Slowly, that feeling turns into bitterness. You start labeling people as selfish, fake, or ungrateful. And while those labels may feel comforting in the moment, they quietly poison your peace. This is why understanding one simple truth can save you from years of unnecessary emotional pain. Most of the time, it's not personal, it's human nature. Human beings are wired to seek security. We are drawn to what feels stable, predictable, and safe. Anything uncertain triggers discomfort. When someone is in the middle of struggle, growth, or transition, their life appears unstable from the outside. Others don't know where it's going, how it will end, or whether it will succeed. That uncertainty makes people hesitate. Not because they want to hurt you, but because they are trying to protect themselves emotionally. When you see this behavior through the lens of human psychology instead of personal judgment, something shifts inside you. You stop carrying unnecessary anger. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You stop asking, why did they treat me like this? And start understanding, they reacted the only way they knew how. This doesn't justify hurtful behavior, but it explains it, and explanation brings peace. Most people are not intentionally cruel. They are simply overwhelmed. They are managing their own fears, insecurities, responsibilities, and disappointments. When they see someone chasing a dream, taking risks, or walking an uncertain path, it activates their own unresolved emotions. Instead of dealing with those emotions, they distance themselves. It's easier to step back than to confront inner discomfort. This is especially true in competitive environments. When you are trying to rise, your effort becomes a mirror. It reflects what others could have done but didn't. Your discipline highlights their procrastination. Your courage highlights their fear. And that reflection can be uncomfortable. So instead of supporting you, they minimize your effort, question your choices, or emotionally withdraw. Again, not because they hate you, but because your journey disrupts their emotional balance. Taking this personally gives other people too much power over your inner world. Their behavior starts controlling your mood, your confidence, and your focus. One careless comment can ruin your day. One ignored message can shake your self-worth. This is an expensive way to live. Emotional maturity is learning to separate your value from other people's reactions. When you stop taking things personally, you gain clarity. You realize that everyone is acting from their own level of awareness and capacity. Some people don't know how to encourage. Some don't know how to handle ambition. Some don't know how to stay when things are uncertain. Expecting emotional intelligence from people who haven't developed it only leads to disappointment. This understanding doesn't mean you become cold or detached. It means you become realistic. You choose where to invest emotionally. You stop expecting depth from people who operate on the surface. You stop sharing your vulnerable moments with those who haven't earned your trust. And in doing so, you protect your energy. There is also a powerful freedom that comes with this mindset. When you don't take things personally, you stop explaining yourself unnecessarily. You don't feel the need to prove your worth. You let people believe what they want. You conserve your strength for what actually matters, your growth, your work, your inner stability. Ironically, this detachment often improves relationships. When you are no longer emotionally reactive, people feel less pressure around you. Conversations become lighter. Interactions become more balanced. You are no longer seeking validation, so you don't feel hurt when it's not offered. You show up as you are, not as someone asking to be understood. And perhaps the most important result of this understanding is self-respect. You stop begging for attention, support, or approval. You realize that your journey does not need universal acceptance. It only needs commitment. Once you internalize this, rejection loses its power. Distance loses its sting. Silence loses its threat. People will come and go. Their behavior will change as circumstances change. If you anchor your emotions to that, you will constantly feel unstable. But when you accept that much of what people do is driven by fear, comfort, and conditioning, not by you, you reclaim control over your emotional life. So the next time someone disappoints you, pause before reacting. Take a breath. Remind yourself that this is not a verdict on your worth. It is simply a reflection of where they are in their own journey. And then, gently but firmly, continue walking your path, without anger, without resentment, with clarity. Success has a strange way of acting like a spotlight. It doesn't change the stage, but it reveals what was already standing there. When you begin to rise, when your efforts finally start producing visible results, the people around you don't suddenly transform into new versions of themselves. They simply become clearer. Winning does not create relationships, it exposes them. Before success, relationships often exist in a fog. Words sound supportive, but actions remain unclear. Promises are made casually. Loyalty is assumed, not tested. When you are struggling, everyone seems equal because no one is being challenged. There is nothing at stake, no pressure, no real reason for people to show where they truly stand. Comfort hides intention. The moment you start winning, that comfort disappears. Your growth introduces contrast. Some people feel inspired, others feel threatened. Some become genuinely happy for you. Others smile on the surface but slowly pull away. These reactions were always inside them. Your success simply brought them out. This is why people often say, success shows you who your real friends are. Not because success demands loyalty, but because it creates conditions where loyalty must choose a side. When there is nothing to gain or lose, everyone can appear supportive. But when your rise shifts dynamics, when it changes comparisons, when it alters power or relevance, people are forced to reveal their true emotional position. Those who are secure within themselves celebrate your growth. They don't feel smaller because you are growing. They don't feel replaced. They don't feel compared. Your success does not threaten their identity. Instead, it strengthens the relationship. Their support becomes more visible, more consistent, more sincere. On the other hand, those who were connected to you through comfort or convenience begin to struggle. Your progress unsettles them. It forces them to confront their own stagnation, their own delays, their own choices. And instead of facing that discomfort, they distance themselves. Not always dramatically. Sometimes it's subtle. Fewer messages, shorter conversations, less enthusiasm. The warmth fades quietly. This is not betrayal, it is revelation. And understanding this distinction matters. If you see it as betrayal, you carry resentment. If you see it as revelation, you gain clarity. You understand that some people were meant to walk with you only for a certain phase. Their presence was real, but temporary. Not everyone is meant to grow with you forever. Winning also attracts new attention. People who never noticed you before suddenly want to connect. They admire your discipline, your consistency, your results. But admiration is not intimacy. Interest is not loyalty. These new connections may feel validating, but they must be observed carefully. Success attracts many spectators, but very few supporters. This is where emotional intelligence becomes critical. You must resist the urge to replace old relationships quickly just because new ones feel exciting. Real relationships are tested over time, not created in moments of success. The people who stood by you when there was nothing impressive to show are rare. Their loyalty was not influenced by outcomes. At the same time, it's important not to romanticize struggle. Some people supported you earlier, but cannot grow beyond that version of you. They are comfortable with your past, not your future. Holding on to them out of guilt can limit your growth. Revelation helps you release without hatred. Success teaches you discernment. You begin to notice who celebrates your wins without competition, who listens without comparison, who remains consistent regardless of your position. These are not many people, and that's okay. Depth is never crowded. Perhaps the hardest part of this realization is accepting that you don't need to confront or accuse anyone. Exposure does not require explanation. You don't need to announce who stayed and who left. Life naturally rearranges your circle as you grow. Your job is not to judge, but to observe. When you understand that winning reveals relationships rather than creating them, you stop forcing connections. You stop chasing validation. You allow people to self-select. Those who belong will stay. Those who don't will drift away. And instead of feeling abandoned, you feel aligned. This understanding also shapes how you treat others. You become careful not to only celebrate people when they succeed. You remember how revealing success can be. And if you are wise, you choose to be someone whose loyalty is not dependent on outcomes. In the end, success doesn't make you lonely. Misunderstanding it does. When you see it clearly, winning becomes less about proving yourself and more about understanding people. And that clarity is a quiet kind of power. In a world full of noise, it's easy to mistake volume for loyalty. We often believe that the people who talk the most, promise the most, and show the most excitement are the ones who truly care. But life slowly teaches a different lesson. Real friends are rarely loud. They don't announce their support. They don't make dramatic declarations. They simply stay. And that quiet consistency is what makes them rare. When you are going through difficulty, the loud voices usually disappear first. The ones who used to talk endlessly suddenly have reasons, distractions, and excuses. Their support was tied to words, not presence. And words are easy when nothing is required. Silence, on the other hand, is heavy. It asks for patience, understanding, and effort. Only a few people are willing to carry that weight. Quiet support often goes unnoticed because it doesn't demand attention. It shows up in small ways. A message that doesn't ask for updates but offers reassurance. A call that doesn't give advice but listens. A presence that doesn't judge your pace or question your direction. These gestures don't look impressive from the outside, but they hold you together on the inside. Loud people often want to be seen as supportive. Quiet people simply are. The difference matters. When someone needs recognition for their loyalty, it becomes conditional. When loyalty exists without performance, it becomes reliable. True friendship does not seek an audience. This is why real friends are few. Consistency is difficult. Anyone can be present for a moment. Staying present over time requires emotional strength. It means tolerating uncertainty, resisting comparison, and managing one's own fears. Most people struggle with these things. So they come and go. Not out of malice, but out of limitation. As you grow, your circle naturally becomes smaller. Not because you become arrogant, but because you become more aware. You start noticing patterns. Who checks in only when things are exciting? Who disappears when you slow down? Who listens without redirecting the conversation back to themselves? Awareness sharpens your understanding of connection. Quiet loyalty becomes especially valuable during success. When you start winning, many voices appear, compliments increase, attention multiplies. But attention is unstable. It rises and falls with circumstances. Quiet loyalty remains unchanged. The people who supported you when no one was watching don't need to adjust their behavior when everyone is watching. Their care is not influenced by outcomes. There is also a certain peace that comes with quiet friendships. You don't feel pressure to perform or impress. You don't feel the need to constantly update or justify yourself. You can be silent without the relationship feeling threatened. That comfort is not created overnight. It is built through trust. Understanding this changes how you choose people. You stop being impressed by excitement. You stop equating enthusiasm with commitment. You become patient. You watch how people behave over time. You notice whether their actions align with their words. And slowly, your definition of friendship matures. This awareness also changes how you show up for others. You become less performative in your support. You don't feel the need to post, announce, or prove your loyalty. You learn that being there matters more than being seen. You offer support without expecting gratitude or recognition. Quiet friendships also survive distance, silence, and change. They don't require constant interaction to remain strong. There is an unspoken understanding that connection is not fragile, that security is rare, and it comes only from depth, not frequency. In a loud world, quiet people are often underestimated, but they are the ones who carry the most weight when things fall apart. When life strips away appearances, noise, and excitement, only a few remain standing, and those few make all the difference. Learning to value quiet loyalty over loud affection protects you from disappointment. It helps you invest wisely. It teaches you that the most meaningful relationships are not crowded, dramatic, or flashy. They are simple, steady, and sincere. And once you experience this kind of friendship, you stop craving attention. You stop chasing approval. You realize that having one or two people who truly stand with you is far more powerful than being surrounded by many who only clap from a distance. Some of the most important people in your life are also the quietest. They don't announce their support. They don't post about you. They don't constantly praise you in front of others. In fact, if you're not paying attention, you might even miss them. Real friends are rarely loud. They don't need to be. Their presence is consistent, not dramatic. When you are struggling, loud people often surround you with words. Advice flows freely. Opinions are everywhere. Everyone has something to say. But when things get uncomfortable, uncertain, or inconvenient, those same voices fade. Noise disappears under pressure. Silence, however, remains. That is where real friendship lives. True friends don't always know what to say, but they know how to stay. They may not fully understand your journey, but they don't abandon it. They don't demand explanations every time you are tired. They don't disappear when you have nothing exciting to offer. Their loyalty is not based on entertainment, benefit, or validation. This is why real friends are few. Not because people are bad, but because consistency requires emotional strength. It takes maturity to stay connected without constant reward. It takes patience to support someone whose success is not guaranteed. Most people are not equipped for that. They can celebrate achievements, but they struggle to sit with uncertainty. Loud support is easy. Anyone can clap when the outcome is visible. Anyone can send congratulations when success is obvious. But quiet support shows up when nothing is clear. A message that says, "I'm here," without asking for updates. A presence that doesn't pressure you to perform. A relationship that doesn't change tone based on your status. Many people confuse popularity with friendship. When things are going well, attention increases. Messages multiply. Invitations appear. It feels like support, but often it's just proximity to success. When circumstances change, so does that attention. And that's when the difference becomes clear. Real friends don't require constant access. They don't demand your energy. They understand distance without resentment. They trust silence. Their connection is not fragile. It doesn't break when you're busy, stressed, or quiet. That kind of friendship doesn't need reassurance every week. It is rooted, not reactive. This is also why real friends rarely compete with you. They don't measure themselves against your progress. Your growth doesn't threaten them. They don't turn conversations into comparisons. They listen without trying to outshine. They celebrate without secretly calculating where they stand. The danger is that because real friends are quiet, people sometimes overlook them. They chase louder approval and miss deeper loyalty. They invest energy in those who are expressive but inconsistent, while neglecting those who are steady but subtle. Over time, this creates disappointment. Learning to recognize quiet loyalty is a skill. It requires slowing down. It requires observing patterns instead of words. Who checks on you without needing something? Who remains respectful when you say no? Who doesn't gossip about you when you're not around? These signals matter more than praise. As you grow, your circle doesn't need to expand. It needs to clarify. Having a few people who truly understand you is more valuable than having many who are merely aware of you. Noise can be comforting, but it's unreliable. Silence, when paired with consistency, is strength. When you learn to value quiet support, you stop feeling lonely in crowds. You stop chasing attention. You stop mistaking excitement for connection. And in that clarity, you protect the few relationships that actually matter. Q. Not every dream needs an audience. In fact, most dreams suffer when shared too early. When you speak about your goals before they are formed, before they are protected by discipline and action, you expose them to opinions that are not invested in their success. And those opinions can quietly drain your motivation. When you explain your dreams to people who don't believe in them, you start carrying unnecessary weight. Every doubtful reaction adds pressure. Every sarcastic comment plants a seed of hesitation. Even well-meaning advice can weaken your resolve if it comes from someone who has never walked your path. Most people listen to dreams through the filter of their own limitations. They don't evaluate your potential, they evaluate their fear. What sounds possible to you sounds risky to them. What excites you makes them anxious. So their response is often caution disguised as concern. They'll say things like, be realistic, or have a backup plan, or people like us don't usually succeed in that. On the surface, it sounds wise. Underneath, it's projection. They are sharing their comfort zone, not your capacity. The more you explain, the more you feel the need to defend, and defending drains energy. Suddenly, instead of building, you are justifying. Instead of working, you are convincing. Instead of progressing, you are managing reactions. This slows everything down. There is also a subtle emotional risk. When you talk about your dreams too much, you get the emotional reward before the actual achievement. Words give a temporary sense of progress. Approval gives a temporary sense of satisfaction, and that can reduce urgency. The mind feels like it has already moved forward, even though the work hasn't begun. Silence protects momentum. When you keep your plans private, they grow without interference. Your focus sharpens. Your discipline deepens. You are no longer influenced by praise or doubt. You are guided by commitment. This doesn't mean you isolate yourself completely. It means you choose carefully. You share your dreams with people who understand the cost of growth. People who won't panic when progress is slow. People who don't need constant proof to stay supportive. Non-believers are not enemies. They are simply not aligned with your vision. Expecting them to understand will only create frustration. Not everyone is meant to walk with you at the beginning. Some people are meant to meet you later when the path is visible. There is power in moving quietly. When results finally appear, explanations become unnecessary. Success communicates more clearly than words ever could. And the same people who doubted will suddenly understand without you saying a thing. Until then, let your actions speak privately. Let your effort replace your explanation. Protect your dreams from noise. not because they are fragile, but because they deserve focus.